talking about Knight Watchmen. Up next on Geek Out SA.
Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream.
And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Saturday and we're having a super time. I gotta come up with a new catchphrase.
Yeah, you need a new
On that one, 'cause
catchphrase.
it used to be it's Friday and we're having fun because we did it on Fridays, but we don't do it on Fridays anymore. So
Super time.
super time.
We're having a super duper time.
Super duper time.
He just keeps adding words until the intro's like 5 minutes long. We'll just have Brett do that little thing that he was saying earlier for the mic check. Just let Brett go.
welcome to Geek Out SA. I have Brett and Wesley here from Knight Watchmen. And Brett, you're the creator of Knight Watchmen. So yes. This is a series on Tubi right now. And which I've caught caught the first one, and I really like it. I really like what's going on. It's a sci-fi, post Second Civil War thing. Can you give us a little more information about what Knight Watchmen is?
Well, it started off in my head many years ago in I think '97. I wanted to do this. I was a big fan of the old private detective movies and the '80s detective shows, but I didn't have any money at all, so I couldn't do a period piece. So I was like, well, how do I make something that I can, that kind of a movie that I can actually afford to do? So I made like this alternate reality, and then I came up with the actual concept of the Knight Watchman, mostly because I really liked the name Dicer. I liked having a character who was a dicer, and that was a job title, and that sort of created this whole alternate reality, or this now sort of this future reality, where the country has been broken up, and Texas is its own is a republic again, but because it was all war torn, there's not a lot of, the population has decreased a lot, due to people leaving and getting killed off. And so they had to figure out a way to have a justice system, and that justice system became privatized. Right. So you have a Sabueso who is a watchman, and it was originally, many years ago when I did this the first time, it was called a Serrano. But everyone said, well, that's a pepper. Yeah. So I said, okay, well, maybe I should change that. So that was one of the evolutions. But basically, you have a Sabueso who's the private detective, the judge and jury, the one who solves the crime and then decides on punishment. And then you had the dicer, who is the one who distributes the punishment. And sort of an eye for an eye type thing. There's an episode that I wanted to do where there's like two the Sabueso and the dicer just hanging out in a laundromat talking for the whole episode. And you find out at the end they were hired to find the person who stole their laundry. So they had to steal their laundry. So the punishment is an eye for an eye. So all they could do is just rough him up a little bit and then steal his laundry.
Wow.
So, but that was like 20 years ago, and then it sort of evolved over the time. But it's a sci-fi dystopian detective series, where it delves into a lot of the philosophical Philip K. Dick type stuff. What's reality? How does the mind work? And then a lot of social.
And I did catch that when I was watching it. I was just like, this kind of seems a little like
a little Dicky.
Blade Runner.
Oh.
a little Blade Runner. And I was
Wesley,
like,
my
that's
students
really
might be
cool.
watching.
That's really cool. It's one of the aspects that I liked
Nice.
about it. So when I started watching, I was really drawn in because of that fact, because I'm big into Philip K. Dick and also big into Blade Runner.
Yeah, and there was definitely a lot of influence in that. We had made a movie called Tag Conspiracy just a year before, or a couple years before, and that was the one we really decided, okay, let's really focus on lighting this time, because when I had Ponderous Productions, which was our studio from like '97 to 2012, I would kind of saw it as practice and trying to figure things out. And every movie I try to focus on something new. Okay, we're going to just concentrate on the directing. Okay, we're just going to work on the camera work. We really want to experiment on this. And Tag Conspiracy was one we really said, okay, let's try our set design and our lighting and really do something crazy with it. And there was a Margot Robbie movie called Terminal that had Michael Myers in it, of all things, of all people. And it was very beautifully lit, and it was like a neo-noir, and it had, you know, your very brilliant reds and purples and blues. And I wanted to mimic that in Tag Conspiracy. And once we saw how great that looked, I brought that back over into Night Watchmen. And so our lighting was a big atmosphere, created a lot of atmosphere, and Blade Runner and Terminal and those types of movies were a big influence in that. But I still, of course, you know, with our budget being the way it was, I had to keep it small, and that's why, you know, the town of San Pasado, where the Night Watching takes place, is war torn, very minimal population. And where it's got that, think of a small town in that Blade Runner world, kind of a feel to it, and that allowed us to create this. I think something that you really haven't seen before, where it's got that Blade Runner feel and that neo-noir feel, but in a small town environment, and it creates an atmosphere that's unique and stylized.
Very cool.
Well, you said just a minute ago that about the Margot Robbie movie. So I was wondering, Wesley's one of the Dicers, and then there's another Dicer, Cecilia. Did Cecilia's character come about from Harley Quinn? Because I get a very Harley Quinn kind of vibe from that.
A lot of people had called that, and I specifically told Nicole before we shot. I said, okay, I don't want this. This isn't Harley Quinn. But, you know, I think just because the original character, I made a movie called Red Days. It was based back in 19. It came out in 19, right before the pandemic. And it kind of did nothing, but it's a movie about a guy who's stuck in his house for 5 years because of a zombie virus. And then, you know, all the lockdowns happened, and the movie just skyrocketed. You know, it was like everyone was watching it. But that was Cecilia's, Nicole's character, her origin story. But it was played by another actress, brown hair, you know, but same kind of thing, swords on the back. When I wrote Night Watchmen, I wrote it in the exact same style as Red Days. I think it's because she's blonde. And has that little bit of a,
bubbly
she has
personality.
kind of some of the mannerisms, like I'm
That's
very excited to kill people. Woohoo!
Exactly.
You know,
that's where a lot of that comes from. But I think if you watch Red Days and it's the same character, but she's a brunette, you're not going to see Harley Quinn in her at all. Even though it's the same mannerisms, same kind of bubbly personality, same, you know, written as the same character. So it's funny, I think, how that comes across. But just because she's blonde. You know, and a little bit younger, I think that's what brings that on. But that was not my intention. But I think when you write a character like that, it's always going to have those comparisons.
Yeah.
Well, I've gotten that a lot too. A lot of people ask if I was doing a little bit of Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Well, so you're so from what I've seen, you're a little more droll, obviously. Did you play off of that some because she's so bubbly, like, or?
So one of the things. Walter, if depending on how far y'all are into the series, he starts off, I mean, kind of playful, kind of happy-go-lucky, just a beer drinking. He seems like a average dude whose life's pretty good. And then with the new Sabueso who comes in, he has all this knowledge, all this experience. He's I don't want to spoil it, but he knows the ins and outs. So we'll just say that. And suddenly he's thrust into kind of just like this fatherly role. Before he was right there, right next to Cecilia. They were both dicers. Like she wasn't really his headache. They were day shift, night shift, like whatever, no big deal. And suddenly he's largely trying to guide this new Sabueso, this process, and he's getting a little more fatherly with the group, more than I think he really wants to. He's not really. It's a pain in his butt, really.
Yeah.
And so I think when he's actually directly having to deal with Cecilia more, and she's like, "Hey, can we get ice cream?" He's like, "No." He's very like, you know. So yeah, I think this definitely she gave me a ton to play off of, and those scenes with her were a blast for sure.
I'd like to hand this over to Weslow. Big applaud to him because I think a major milestone in my career as a director comes from the interaction that Wes and I had on creating this character. I had this idea in my head, but Wes was so good communicating and asking questions and trying to develop the character on his own that it taught me as well as a director, because my later films, especially like Oldest Posse, which is a Western that just came out, I learned on Night Watchmen to collaborate and really work and flush out character arcs and understanding the characters better and changing the character a little bit, even though the script was already done, I had it plotted out, but because of Wes and his enthusiasm for this character, we were able to collaborate and mutually create and grow this character to become what he was. When he would go through sort of a change, Wes would, I don't understand why he's making this change, and we would work together on creating that dynamic and what made him evolve. So it makes it more natural. So I thank Wesley for helping me progress and grow as a director because of this project.
And honestly, like, as far as my normal process is, like, I just aim for showing up sober, basically. But no, this,
And you get drunk there.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what are you gonna do about it? We're shooting. So this character, I don't know if y'all had a chance to talk about it beforehand. The previous production company, they shot 10 feature-length films in 1 year, and during the process of that, it was the first time I'd heard about the character of Walter Baker for Night Watchmen. I heard about the project, and he showed me some clips of stuff that he'd done on that story before, and literally, I have been wanting to play this character. I guess it's been almost 15 years ago that I heard about him. So when he was like, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and bring Night Watchmen back," I was like, "Oh yeah." So the moment he was like, you want to audition? Oh yeah, I was like, I literally been wanting to play this character for well over a decade.
Yeah, I'm going to tell the story that about the casting was you had played a character called Jack Hart in the Innocent Saga, and he was much more of I say an airhead, just not the smartest tool in the shed. He started off as But you just brought your personality into it and put too many jokes in, I think, and it evolved into him. Because in the Innocent Killers, he was kind of a little bit more.
Wasn't that smart? He wasn't. You brought your personality.
So I know it was like, so Wesley, you weren't doing a whole lot of acting there. Whoa, Brett.
Aiming for sober.
Well, your comedy, your flair for comedy in that. So it was difficult because Walter was such a more stoic character. He was. I wanted a little bit of that David Addison, earlier on in that character, and I knew it could bring that. But I was worried about because all I had was that previous character of Jack Hart in my head, and I was like, well, can Wes pull this off? And I think it was about 2 weeks into shooting, and we did one of the more I guess one of the more violent scenes or one of the more romantic scenes, and I was like, oh my God, he did it. He pulled it off. It was incredible, and it was so close because I was like, I don't know if Wes can pull that off, because I had Jack Hart in my head. Every time I saw you in that role of Walter, I kept seeing Jack Hart come in.
Yeah.
But it goes to show how even a director can be narrow-minded and closed-minded and not be able to do it. But when you give that person a chance and you trust them, they can bring it out. And I applaud you on that. That you did hit it out of the park and you nailed it and you got the character. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's all I needed.
All good stuff. So yeah, it's really drawn me in so far. The really great thing about this is it's shot here in San Antonio, and I caught a few things here and there where I saw like a UTSA sign in the background. I don't think it was. It's not obvious, but I just happened to glance at it, and it was just like it's a little yellow sign on the ground, and it was like UTSA. I was like, oh, it's a lot of it's. I'll have
to look at that because I don't remember that, because there are little things here or there that I'll see. Oh, I didn't cover that up, or I did cover up because I tried to cover up as much as I could. There'd be something.
Look at it, and you're just like, that looks really familiar, and I just think that's really cool. Like it kind of brings you back to where you're watching what is it, that Knight Rider movie, and you're able to see everything. Oh, look, that's River Center.
River Center. I love that.
Yeah, we tried to make it as nondescript as we could. I mean, all the interiors, basically all the interiors, all in this one building in off of Fredericksburg downtown. It's a 1,500 square foot building, I think, and we made 25 or 26 sets out of that one little building. We only had the detective office set up the whole time, and then everything else was rotating around. But the downside of that is when we were renting it, we were checking it out in April, I think, so the weather was fine. And then May rolled around, and the Texas heat started, and there was only one little air conditioner, and the air conditioner did not work at all. And I put you guys through hell over that. I apologize for that, but it was so hot. We tried to bring in the little portable air conditioners, and that didn't work. So you guys, I do know that they suffered through it, and that was something that we really wanted to focus on. We wanted it to be a comfortable environment, but unfortunately we checked it out in April, and everything was fine. It was cool. And
I've been telling people, we had this really like edgy production designer who went with the wet look. It was all sweat.
But yeah, so there weren't a lot of exteriors. And then the exteriors that we did, we just kind of did around that building because there was a lot of construction going on down there at that time. And I thought that really lent to that burnt out, war-ridden kind of a thing. And we just wanted to, as many older buildings as possible and whatnot.
See, and that's okay. It's dystopian, so it's okay if you're all sweaty and everything, because just the air conditioners are broken, Civil War, and it's like it's a thing. So just go with it,
Well, trichinosis or whatever, anyways.
Yeah, it's fine. It's good.
So, what are some of the things that are different from producing a feature film and from a series that you're doing here?
Well, kind of like I tell my students, in terms to answer that question, I guess overall it's just the story. You have more time to tell a story and get into more detail. But from a production aspect, is what I would tell my students is if you can make a short film, you can make a feature film, because a short film is just 5 or 6. A feature film is just 5 or 6 short films when you look at it from a production standpoint. Because I always want to inspire people to go out and make their own film. I want them to go out and give it a shot. I want them to get out of the chairs and go out and do it. And that's why I created our series Long Shot, to kind of show people every aspect of film, so that they can be inspired and not be afraid to go out and do it. So from that aspect, it's just a feature film, but longer, from a production standpoint, and you're just going to have to spend more time on it. It does make it a little more difficult, because when we did the Innocent Saga back in 2007, 2008, it was 10 feature films. Now in hindsight, I look at it, that should have been a series. It should have been a series. So the only difference I would say from a layman's standpoint is just that you get to explore the characters so much more. And I think that's what I would love to do. I would love to be focused on series rather than feature films, but unfortunately budget-wise and schedule-wise, feature films are just a little bit easier and more realistic to do.
Right.
Even Night Watchmen, I would have loved to have had more than 6 episodes in the first season, and I would have loved to have been 10 or 12, because then I would be able to do a little bit more with standalone episodes. Rather than every episode kind of really evolving into the arc. But I think episode 3 is, we got a chance to do sort of a standalone episode, which was Girls' Night Out, which we got to focus, not on the murder mystery that was going throughout the season, but just focusing on the characters a little more, getting to know them. So like in season 2, if and when we get to do that, I would love to do a Guys' Night episode, where it's the 2 male dicers and we have to kind of follow them around. But I think that's the main difference, is you get to know the characters more, and I think I've always been a more character-driven writer and director.
Right.
And recently, over the years, I've had to learn more about story structure and the 3-act and the 11-step story structure and things like that, and make it more palatable for general audiences. But in the end, I think series are where I belong because I get to delve in the characters so much more and get to know their backstories and where they come from. And that's what I'm more interested in, and throwing these characters in different situations. And you get to do that with a series because you get to know them and they become your friends. I look at the Star Trek series or Moonlighting or whatnot, anything that you're watching, it's almost like you become their friends. These are your friends. You sit down and you invite them into your living room and you get to know them and your ins and outs and every little detail of their lives. And I think that's what excites me about series as opposed to feature films.
So Wesley, from an actor's perspective, how does it change for you to go from feature film to doing something that's a series? How do you kind of change your process, or does it change?
I mean, what you said. No, okay. So
back to you, Brett.
no, but really, I think he nailed it. I've never had a chance to spend this much time on one character, especially one that I really like so much. And I would go so far as to say that he probably has the most distinct arc of any character, probably any character I've ever had a chance to play. So yeah, I loved seeing Walter go from just kind of just like kind of floating along, being just kind of a smartass, and then having to really have some real weight on his shoulders and some real responsibilities. It was very rewarding for me. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I've already been kind of like season two.
Well, it's really great to see characters change.
Yeah.
In the series, and it makes them more relatable, I think.
Yeah, and I think this series, in terms of talking about that Walter character, again, helped me grow as a filmmaker because I used to be that I didn't fully understand show don't tell. If I had done this series 5 years ago, I think I would have had to have a scene. I would have written a scene with Walter sitting around drinking a beer by himself or something, saying, "I have to become the father. I have to go, and I have to, since I've got to deal with this new Sabueso and Cecilia's just crazy. I'm going to have to do this." Well, I didn't have to do that when you have actors like Daniela and Rolando and Wes and Nicole. You can see it on their faces, and you let the acting and the situations tell that. So I didn't have to have Wes sitting there contemplating life and complaining to the bartender. He was able to present that and show that non-verbally, showing, not telling it. But I couldn't have done that without a great cast to work with. Does that answer the question? I always get on tangents.
I think so. Well, one of the things that I think for the audience out there, Vincent and I have watched, one of the episodes, and we've watched the trailer. So I think what we should do is go to the queue up and queue up the trailer,
so you can
so
see
that
what we're
people
talking
can
about.
see what we're talking about.
You solve the crime and then sign the warrant, then I whack him.
Makes us sound like hitmen.
That's what we are, aren't we? Hitmen for the good guys.
Do your job, or more people are going to die.
Do you know what a watchman is, Montoya?
Sort of private detectives, a private sheriff's office.
You solve the crime and then sign the warrant, and then you have to personally deliver it to them.
I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm Cecilia. I'm your dicer. Night side only, though. If you need a dicer during the day, that would be Walter.
Dicer.
Yeah, you never go in the field without a dicer.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, you're my executioner.
Your dicer watches over you and protects you while you're investigating, and of course, while you're delivering the bad news.
Get down.
So do I just wait for someone to hire me to solve this thing?
Yep.
And if no one does?
It doesn't get solved.
So I walk up to the guilty party, tell them they've been found guilty, and
Then I whack him.
you're a psychopath.
Well, duh. But the good news is, I'm your psychopath. Mwah.
Makes us sound like hitmen.
That's what we are, aren't we? Hitmen for the good guys.
You say that like I enjoy killing people, don't you?
I enjoy killing bad people. It chills me out. And trust me, you want me chilled.
Before we get out there, I need to know what you're prepared to do.
My name is Isabella Montoya. I'm the local watchman.
I have a psychotic murder ninja and a drunken chauvinist, and my life depends on them both.
Do your job, or more people are going to die.
Wow.
I'm sold. I'm gonna still watch it.
Yeah.
Let's go watch that.
Viewing party.
And the interesting thing is, like I said before, this is on Tubi. Anybody can get Tubi, and you don't even have to pay for Tubi.
Right.
So, can you tell us a little bit? How did you get involved with Tubi?
Well, we have I guess this will be getting into the distribution aspect of it and the behind the scenes of it. Basically, we have we're always able to go directly to Amazon. We can all of our films are on Amazon, but recently they don't let everybody get onto Prime anymore. So if you had the Prime membership, you could watch stuff for free. I think 1 or 2 of our films are available on Amazon for free, but the other ones you have to rent or buy. So we've always had that direct avenue, but there's what's called an aggregate. Which is basically a company that's going to be sort of your film representative. If you're trying to get onto Netflix or Tubi or somebody like that, they're not going to listen to you as just a film, as a single, independent filmmaker. There's too many of us out there, and there are too many restrictions, too many requirements on what the frame rate and the resolution and all of this different requirements for the video itself. And if you just get one thing wrong, they're going to dump you, or they're not going to be interested in it. So they would much rather have one company that all of us go to, and then that company makes sure that everything from the frame rate down to the resolution is correct, and that we have all our subtitles done properly, and then they go to the Tubi and the Amazons and all the other places, the Netflix, because some of our stuff is on iTunes, the iTunes Store, the Apple TV, things like that. But we all go through one aggregate who's able to pitch and say, take all of us and then say, lay it down on the table. Here's what you have to choose from, rather than us trying to knock on Tubi's door directly and them saying, well, who are you? Right. But that's why the more people that watch, the better the chance of a higher quality season 2, or more episodes of season 2. Because if the numbers go up and Tubi sees, oh wow, this this business this people are watching this series, then they can come to us and say, hey, we'd like this to be an original, and help us create it. With more of that higher quality and that higher Hollywood standard. Whereas if we just which is what I will happen one way or the other. Because I want to see season 2 so bad, then I will just be funding it myself. But I won't have that money that a streaming service would be able to give us directly. So I'm pretty sure season 2 will happen, but we want to give it some time to get the viewership up and hopefully get a streaming service or a production company to come in and say, yes, we see the potential for this, we see where this is going, and this would be a phenomenal series if we just give you a little bit more money than you have to work with yourself. So that's basically how it works on the behind the scenes of getting your film out there.
So because we know a lot of filmmakers out there, and we've dabbled here and there.
Calm down. We did one 48 hour.
We did one 48-hour thing.
That's where you start.
It's interesting to find out that you have that. You were telling us about this series that you were doing that kind of like teaches you how to like
long shot.
Yes,
long shot. So what I'm trying to ask is, if somebody was to go out there and wanted to do what you did and do any type of like episodic kind of show, what is it going to take to get started? How much
That's why I
do you
think.
want to look at?
Well, that's why I made the series Long Shot, because there was a I don't know if we're allowed to press or mention other streamers or whatnot, but Film Threat, they had a little short that I had seen, and he had said anybody in our audience can go out and make a movie right now. Nothing's holding you back. Anybody can do it. And then I read all the comments in the comment section about it, and it was all these excuses. Oh, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. Oh, it's just this. And I was like, no, you can do this. And that's why I created Long Shot. And I wanted to. We kind of sat around. I had a big production meeting and invited some people over and said, okay, what do we want to do? What kind of movie do we want to make? And we wound up making Sierra Rabbit 7, which is our comedy horror franchise. And we're going to do it for $2,500. And we're going to have a behind the scenes camera and show you every step of the way from casting to from concept to casting to writing. There's, I think, 3 or 4 episodes about just brainstorming and coming up with the idea and story structure. And then how do you find locations, and what do you shoot with if you don't have all this great equipment? And basically the concept was to show you how to do it with no money, because that's how we used to do it. We've done feature films for $65 before. And
that was all Wesley's salary.
I got a trailer. It was a radio flyer. Yeah.
Oh, we paid people in Gatorade before, so you know. But so it is it's just about having that inspiration and a desire to go out and do it. Our films, I mean, we didn't have anything to work with. But nowadays you have so much more to work with than we had when we were just starting out. We had to save up, I think, $300 just to be able to buy an old VHS camcorder to be able to start making our movies back in high school. Now you've got your cell phone that has 4K video. Now I don't recommend doing that, but you have it. You know, if we would have had 4K in high school back in the early 90s and late 80s, we would have been making higher quality stuff that you could see, that would actually be watchable rather than this grainy old VHS stuff. But we went out there and we got our buddies together and we wrote a script and we did what we called resource filmmaking. You look at what you have access to. Don't go out and make this giant space opera with Wookiees and Yodas walking around when you don't have any money. Look at what you have to work with. Oh, Bob, he owns a bar. We can shoot in the bar. Or, Betty, she has a restaurant. We can shoot in her restaurant. And write scenes around that and who your buddies are, who you have access to. And not only will your buddies become better actors as you move on, but you'll become better at making films. I always say, look, your first film is going to be bad. Accept that right off the bat. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be what you want it to be. But your next one's going to be even better. Because you learn from that one. So that's always my advice, is just go out there and do it. And don't expect it to look like the Avengers. It's not going to, because people always say, well, why didn't you just, Brett, why did you always make all these crappy films, for $5 or $10 when you could have waited and saved all that money to go make a real one that had all this money? Well, I could have, and then I would have had $100,000 to make my first movie, but I wouldn't know what I was doing, and it would have been just as bad because I had no idea how to make a movie. So go out, make your bad, 5, 10 movies on an old VHS or on your cell phone, and learn how to make a movie, and learn to appreciate what hard work it is to make a movie, and then start putting money into it. And because once you have something to show somebody, then you're able to bring them on board. And there's maybe a guy who's a great audio guy, and they see your stuff and go, wow, I'd like to work with you. How can I help? Or a cinematographer, somebody who really knows their stuff. Hey, I like what you're doing. I think I can bring a lot to your projects as a DP, as a cinematographer. Let me, how can I help out? And that's how you grow. But if you've got nothing to show, you're not going to be able to draw this community together.
Well, so where can people go? So this is kind of a multi-phase question. Where can people go to see Long Shot? And then also, what is the name of your production company so people can look you up? And where can they go see some of these other things that you've mentioned now that you've kind of told us about some of your other things? Where can people go to do that?
Certainly. Long Shot is available for free on YouTube. It's our series. We're Not So Sane Entertainment. I think our last episode, and whether we do another season or not, depends on how much we want to go behind the scenes if we do another film. But the last episode I think is on Sunday, which is just the wrap up kind of an episode. So almost the whole series is out already for free on YouTube. Under Not So Sane Entertainment, and you can find links to all of our stuff on our website at notsosane.com. We are Not So Sane Entertainment. Go to notsosane.com and you can find links to our Tubi page right up on front. I think it says watch our movies for free, and you click on that and it'll take you to Tubi where you can see it all. Otherwise, most of our stuff is on Amazon. Their video link, and then there are other little streaming sites here and there that are up and comers or that people may know. I think some of our movies are on Stash TV on YouTube. Other little streaming sites that pop up here and there. I think Reveal is just coming out. We're on there, a lot of their stuff. We've got some of our stuff on Apple TV. We just got it. I didn't know they were still doing this, but we just got Red Days on picked up by a DVD company. So we'll see how that works out.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, notsosane.com or YouTube, Not So Sane Entertainment. That's where you can find our stuff.
Nice. Excellent.
So how much further past season 2 are you willing to go?
I've got 3 seasons written in my head
Okay.
already. Now it's just kind of sitting out and plotting it out necessarily, because I want to put these characters through a lot, and I know where I'm taking them, and I think I've told you a little bit about some of the direction, and I just want to see this stuff happen. So I've got 3 seasons planned and plotted out, but I could take this thing as far as it could, I think just like a Seinfeld or any other movie, any other series, you can feel when it's time to step away. Yeah. I think like series like X-Files.
You definitely don't want to jump that shark, right?
Right, exactly. I think there's a series like
the last episode of season 4.
That's the name of the last episode. Oh my God! I'm sorry, I ruined it for everybody.
we got to get you on the ski.
You got to be on the jet ski. It's time to
I get to
go.
play the shark also. So that's good.
And you play the shark.
So I'm like,
Wesley's like,
That's the contract. You got to go dice the shark.
We have to see Wes sing in the musical.
Well, darn, that was what I was going to ask for.
We do want a musical episode.
Episodes are my
We've
favorite.
got to have a musical episode, but you got to hook the audience before you can take that plunge. So that's a season 3 or season 4 episode. But I've already actually got that in my head as to
Yes.
Wes has to do that. I mean that was kind of your character in the Innocent Saga, where he was the piano player in an old torch. Saloon type place. So yeah, if we get a big enough audience, we'll take the risk of rolling the dice and doing one episode that's a musical episode.
Better start doing those TikTok dances, Wes.
Deeply set hook to get people to stay through that.
Well, I was a big Moonlighting fan, and they did an episode called "The Dream Sequence Always Rings Twice," and you had Sybil Shepherd singing Blue Moon and I Told You I Love You, Now Get Out. So there was that little bit of a musical aspect to it. So that would always leak a little into this, I think. But yeah, I think just like in X-Files, you can see, it should have ended in this season, but they put it on too long. So I think you have to see and feel where it's going.
Well, I think some of seeing and feeling where it's going is knowing kind of what you're hoping the audience can take from it. So what are you hoping that the audience takes from this story?
I grew up on the 80s detective shows, the 80s movies and all that, and I think there was always, they always had at their heart morality tales, and they were always discussed ethics and morals, and a series like Star Trek did a great job of showing you both sides, and didn't necessarily say one was right or wrong, but could show you the results or the downsides to this decision, or the upsides to that decision, and I think that's what I think is at the heart of a lot of my films is to not really, we don't want to be preachy, so we want to show both sides, but also show that there's no solutions, only compromises, kind of in a way. So I think that's what a lot of TV shows are missing today is that morality tale. And that life lesson that was in it. I mean, you could watch an episode of Knight Rider, and there would be some sort of lesson to learn, even if it was the over encompassing theme of something like Knight Rider. One man can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny because before we started filming, Brett was telling us about like a G.I. Joe Cobra-esque thing that he's done. And so that's one of the things always from when we were growing up from G.I. Joe, right, is knowing is half the battle, right?
Yeah.
So just getting that kind of knowledge from the show, and I think a lot of kids nowadays are missing that because of the stuff that they watch. They're not getting some of that, and as a school teacher I see that a lot. So do you, when I watch it, I get kind of, now that you've said it, and I've grown up in the same era as you, did you watch like Magnum PI and some of that kind of stuff, right? And then I see some of that kind of Judge Dredd-ish kind of like thought process. Do you kind of feel that too when with the Dicers? Are you getting that like kind of controversy within them, or?
Yes, because there's a couple scenes with you and Daniela that were inspired by the moonlighting banter, the Remington Steels, the Matt Houstons. And so there was always that search for truth, but when it came to that harsher, darker side, it was sort of that warning to say, look, this is where we can go if we're not careful. And that's what I've always tried to do with my dystopian films, is to say, well, yeah, this is a cool concept, and you have this really this cool idea of, oh, you've got the judge and the jury in one person, and it's privatized and everything, but you also have to look at wow, what if this did happen? And could we wind up here? And how do we prevent this from happening? And that's sort of, the concept of The Watchmen. It takes place 13 years after the Second American Civil War. And it's not an attempt to get political or anything like that, but to be warning about any side, any political idea taken to extreme can send you down this path. So there is that darkness and that dark side of that Judge Dredd style of one man being the executioner, and that warning, and that's sort of what we do in later in the episodes. There's a condition that Dicers get that's called snake eyes, that is a negative side of that justice system. So we do like to show that while we pull you in by this cool, really cool, exciting, different new style of justice, we do jump in and say, but look, this is dangerous because of this.
And the Montoya character definitely, like, you see it weighs heavy on her conscience the entire,
Yeah, that's her arc, is she's really struggling with this, because she was assigned this.
Right, because she asked, I see her asking Cecilia a lot of questions about, like, what do you mean this is what we're doing? Like, are you sure? So I wanted to ask Wesley really quickly, because it's about time for us to wrap up. But so you get to kind of be more of the gunslinger, gun-toting, where Cecilia is more of the, like, with the swords and the hack and slash. How do you think that kind of impacts how you acted, is the kind of weapons that you get to use as the character?
Yeah, so
That's
I think,
a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So he carries a revolver, and that was something that we'd actually talked a lot about, like how Blade Runner new, kind of modern futuristic should it be? How much should it be just like an old time 6-gun, whatever? And he was really adamant about him going with the old chrome revolver. And I think having a very simple handgun, nothing crazy, no plasma throwers or anything like that, and then the fighting style, he's just a puncher. He can take a punch, he can throw a punch. He's not a martial artist. He doesn't do anything fancy. He'll just punch you till you stop moving. And, I think that was really helpful to me as far as finding that gruff, no nonsense. When you peel away the smart aleck remarks in the beginning and the banter and whatever, to get down to like when he needs to take care of business, I think that really did help to inform it and connect with who Walter is supposed to be. So yeah, it was really great question. It really was. It was beneficial for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, because from the Nicole standpoint, being with the swords, a little bit more sadistic, a little bit more nuts and crazy, and it comes through with the swords.
Yeah, psychotic wood chipper.
Yeah.
Well, Brett and Wesley, thanks for hanging with us.
No,
and,
thank you for the
we
invite.
Really
So
appreciate
much.
it.
It's good to see y'all again.
Check Night Watchmen out on Tubi right now. First episode, all out, 6 episodes. It's going to be awesome. But thanks for checking us out. I'm Vince.
I don't know what camera I am. I'm Colleen, and that's Brett, and that's Wesley.
Geek at us, eh?